In 1977, two men terrorized Los Angeles. The city, known for its glitz and glamour, was suddenly plunged into a nightmare. The streets that were once bustling with life became scenes of horror and dread. People were afraid to step out after dark, and the air was thick with fear and suspicion. They committed 10 brutal murders. Each crime scene was more gruesome than the last, leaving the police and the public in a state of shock. The brutality of their acts was beyond comprehension, and the randomness of their attacks made everyone a potential target. It was over a span of just 5 months. In this short period, the city was gripped by a reign of terror that seemed to have no end in sight. The rapid succession of murders left the authorities scrambling for clues and the community in a constant state of anxiety. Angelo Buono and Kenneth Bianchi were their names. These two men, who seemed ordinary on the surface, harbored a darkness that was unimaginable. Their mugshots became infamous, symbols of the evil that lurked within the city. They became known as the Hillside Stranglers. The media quickly picked up on the story, and the name struck fear into the hearts of Los Angeles residents. Headlines screamed of the latest atrocities, and news anchors delivered updates with grim faces. They lured their victims to their deaths. Using deceit and charm, they would gain the trust of unsuspecting women, only to lead them into a trap from which there was no escape. Their methods were as cunning as they were cruel. The victims were often young women. These women, full of life and dreams, became the tragic targets of Buono and Bianchi's twisted desires. Their lives were cut short in the most horrific ways, leaving families and friends devastated. Deceit and manipulation were their weapons. They used every trick in the book to ensnare their victims, from posing as authority figures to offering help. Their ability to manipulate and deceive was chilling, making it difficult for anyone to see through their facade. Each murder was meticulously planned. Buono and Bianchi left nothing to chance. They carefully selected their victims, planned their abductions, and executed their murders with precision. The level of detail in their planning was both impressive and terrifying. But it was the shocking revelation of their connection that sent chills through the city. The fact that these two men, seemingly unrelated, were working together in such a coordinated manner was a revelation that left everyone stunned. Buono was 38 years old. He was a man with a seemingly normal life, working as an auto upholsterer. But beneath this facade of normalcy lay a mind capable of unspeakable horrors. He was an auto upholsterer. His job involved working with his hands, crafting and repairing car interiors. It was a skill that he would later use in the most sinister ways. He teamed up with 27-year-old Bianchi. Bianchi, younger and seemingly more impressionable, was drawn into Buono's dark world. Together, they formed a deadly partnership. Bianchi was an unassuming former student. He blended into society with ease, never raising suspicion. His ability to appear harmless was one of his most dangerous traits. Their heinous acts shook the community. The sense of safety that people once felt was shattered. The community was left to grapple with the reality that such evil could exist in their midst. The murders led to extensive investigations. The police worked tirelessly, piecing together clues and following leads. The complexity of the case required a level of dedication and perseverance that tested the limits of the investigators. A media frenzy lasted for years. The public's fascination with the case was insatiable. Every new development was covered extensively, and the media played a crucial role in keeping the story alive. The frenzy ultimately resulted in their capture in 1979. After years of fear and uncertainty, the city could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The capture of Buono and Bianchi marked the end of a dark chapter in Los Angeles' history. The city was on edge. Fear was palpable. Even after their capture, the scars left by their reign of terror remained. The community had been forever changed by the events of those 5 months. The news was filled with reports of the killings. Every detail was scrutinized, and the public's hunger for information seemed endless. The case became a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of society. Who were these monsters preying on the innocent? The question lingered in the minds of everyone. The story of the Hillside Stranglers remains one of the most chilling chapters in the history of Los Angeles, a stark reminder of the fragility of safety and the ever-present potential for evil. Angelo Buono, the elder of the two, was a man of simmering rage. He was domineering and controlling. His history was littered with failed relationships. He had a reputation for violence against women. Kenneth Bianchi, on the other hand, presented a facade of normalcy. He was quiet and unassuming, But beneath the surface lurked a deep-seated insecurity. He craved control and power. Their paths crossed in Los Angeles in the early 1970s. Buono, with his experience in manipulation, quickly recognized Bianchi's vulnerabilities. He saw an opportunity. A partnership was formed. Evil had found its disciples. The Hillside Stranglers' modus operandi was chilling in its simplicity. They were cunning and ruthless, exploiting the trust people had in law enforcement. They used fake badges and identification cards, meticulously crafted to look authentic. They pretended to be undercover police officers, a guise that allowed them to approach their victims without raising suspicion. They targeted young women, often those who were alone and vulnerable. They approached them on the streets or at bus stops, places where the women felt relatively safe. The Stranglers would engage them in conversation, using their fake authority to gain their trust. Their victims, believing they were encountering law enforcement, were easily misled. The women, thinking they were being protected, would comply with their instructions without hesitation. Once they had gained their victims' trust, they would drive them to Buono's house, which became their chamber of horrors. The house, with its dark and foreboding exterior, was the last place these women would ever see. There, the victims were subjected to unimaginable torture. They were raped, they were strangled. The basement of Buono's house was a place of nightmares, where the Stranglers' sadistic desires were unleashed. After they had finished with their victims, they discarded them on the hillsides like discarded dolls. The lifeless bodies, left in remote areas, were a grim testament to the brutality of their killers. Each murder was a testament to their depravity. The crime scenes, often discovered by hikers or passers-by, were meticulously examined by investigators who were horrified by the extent of the violence. Each one left the city reeling in horror. The news of the murders spread quickly, causing widespread fear and panic. The city, once a place of dreams, had become a hunting ground for the Hillside Stranglers. Los Angeles in 1977 was a city on edge. The string of murders, each more gruesome than the last, had shattered the sense of security. Fear was a constant companion. Women were afraid to go out alone. The once vibrant city seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next horrific discovery. The media frenzy surrounding the case was unprecedented. Every detail, every clue, every theory was splashed across newspapers and television screens. The pressure on law enforcement was immense. The city demanded answers. They demanded justice. The investigation into the Hillside Strangler murders was massive and complex. The LAPD was tasked with tracking down the killers who seemed to vanish into thin air. Hundreds of leads were followed, thousands of tips were investigated, but the case remained unsolved. The killers continued to evade capture. A breakthrough came in 1979. Kenneth Bianchi, having moved to Washington state, was linked to two similar murders there. During his interrogation, he cracked. He confessed to his crimes. He named his cousin Angelo Buono as his accomplice. The game was up. The news of the arrest of Angelo Buono and Kenneth Bianchi sent shockwaves through Los Angeles. The city could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The reign of terror was over. The trials were sensational. The evidence against them was overwhelming. Bianchi, in a desperate attempt to avoid the death penalty, feigned insanity. But his act was unconvincing. In the end, both men were found guilty. They were sentenced to life in prison. Justice had been served, but the scars of their crimes ran deep. Angelo Buono died in prison in 2002. He died a bitter and unrepentant man. Kenneth Bianchi remains incarcerated to this day. He is a testament to the depths of human depravity. The families of their victims were left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. The impact of their crimes extended far beyond the immediate families. It shook the city of Los Angeles to its core. It forced people to confront the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. The Hillside Strangler murders left an indelible mark on the City of Angels. These heinous crimes, committed in the late 1970s, shocked the nation and forever altered the landscape of Los Angeles. The city, known for its glitz and glamour, was suddenly thrust into a nightmare that seemed to have no end. The fear was palpable, and the sense of security that many residents once felt was shattered. They serve as a chilling reminder of the vulnerability of innocence in the face of pure evil. The victims, many of whom were young women, were lured into a trap from which there was no escape. The brutality of the crimes left the community in a state of perpetual fear, wondering who might be next. The streets that were once bustling with life became deserted as night fell, and the air was thick with tension. The case also had a profound impact on law enforcement. Detectives and officers worked tirelessly, often around the clock, to piece together the clues that would eventually lead to the capture of the perpetrators. The investigation was one of the most extensive in the city's history, involving multiple agencies and countless hours of manpower. The pressure to solve the case was immense, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. It led to changes in police procedures. The methods used in the investigation set new standards for how serial crimes were handled in the future. The case highlighted the need for better communication and coordination between different law enforcement agencies. It also underscored the importance of forensic science and the role it plays in solving complex cases. The lessons learned from this dark chapter in history have been instrumental in shaping modern policing techniques. It increased awareness about the importance of public safety. Community programs and neighborhood watch groups sprang up in response to the fear that gripped the city. People became more vigilant, looking out for one another and reporting suspicious activities. The sense of community solidarity grew stronger as residents banded together to protect their neighborhoods. The legacy of these efforts can still be seen today in the various community safety initiatives that continue to thrive. But perhaps the most enduring legacy of the Hillside Stranglers is the way their story continues to fascinate and horrify. The case has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries and films, each attempting to unravel the mystery and understand the minds of the killers. The public's morbid curiosity about the case has kept it in the spotlight for decades, serving as a grim reminder of the capacity for human cruelty. Their crimes are a stark reminder of the darkness that can reside in the human heart. The Hillside Stranglers' ability to blend into society while committing such atrocities is a chilling testament to the duality of human nature. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that evil can lurk behind the most ordinary of facades. This realization has left an indelible mark on the collective psyche of Los Angeles and beyond, and a cautionary tale that continues to resonate today. The memory of the victims and the horror of the crimes serve as a powerful reminder of the need for vigilance and the importance of community. As we remember the past, we are reminded to remain ever watchful, ensuring that such darkness never again takes root in the City of Angels. The story of the Hillside Stranglers is a chilling tale of deceit, manipulation, and cold-blooded murder. It is a story that continues to captivate and horrify. The case remains one of the most infamous in American crime history. It serves as a reminder of the importance of vigilance, and the need to be aware of the potential for evil that exists in the world. We must never forget the victims, we must learn from the past, and we must remain vigilant in our pursuit of justice.